Welcome to the Hasn't Been 3 Days podcast. Your host, Justin and BJ. We talk about 3-day-old news, sports, and church hurt. And
Church hurt. Right into it.
right into it. Yeah, no qualms about it anymore.
No, nothing.
Well, it's been a few days, but we're thankful the MVP listeners. We haven't even probably checked our
stats
recently, have we?
We kind of just stopped for a while providing those details. I think we probably have.
Yeah, we've stopped providing the details. I'm just curious if anybody's still listening. So.
Well, we still get. Yeah, we still do. It looks like.
Okay.
We're about an average size of 14 on Spotify, is what it says. We have our loyal listeners. Actually, I think our YouTube sees a lot more traffic than anything now. Yep. Well, I think a lot of people, it's just easier for YouTube because YouTube, they don't have to download anything else. They just go straight to YouTube because it's on every phone nowadays.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you 14 MVP listeners, we're thankful for you to join us as we get ready to wrap up this series that we're in. We got 2 more episodes, hopefully, that we have left tonight and next week. So tonight we're bringing back our wonderful co-hosts and better halves, Becky and Heidi, with us. And so we're glad that they're back with us as we kind of summarize the church hurt for us. So we're excited for that. Welcome back, Heidi and Becky. Glad you could be here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule.
Oh, yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
Well, we've had let's before we jump into this, let's go back to some of our old faithful things here. It's been a few days since we've had you guys on, and a lot's happened. What's been going on in your world, Becky? How have you been lately?
I've been pretty good. Still just working at physical therapy. Did hit some new goals, make some achievements. So that's exciting. It's always nice when that slow but sure progress is visible. So, and otherwise just trying to keep up with the kids.
How was your trip for you?
It was good. It was very busy, but it always is when we try to pack in a bunch of activities along with spending time with family, but it was good.
Can I put you on the spot with your family for just a minute?
Sure.
I know you went out to visit extended family, but you also went with your parents. Yes, is that right?
Yes.
So, like when you go on vacation with your parents, is it typical for you guys just to kind of sit around and visit and do that whole thing, or is it like your parents want to go and do stuff and be active the whole time?
My parents would be perfectly happy sitting around drinking coffee and just having meals together and doing absolutely nothing else. It would be my other half and my children who prefer to get up and do all the things. So we kind of have to mesh the two together.
Balance it out for sure.
That's why we allow them to have the mornings to sit around and drink coffee. And then we get going.
Nap.
Late morning. And nap.
Oh, that's good.
Well, part of it was Bree wanted to do so much because part of it was that Bree wanted to go to Colorado Springs. She was the kind of instigator of all of it.
She was.
She has, but she wanted to go specifically for her 16th birthday to spend it with her great aunt who shares a birthday too. So.
Oh, fun.
And she lives 10 minutes from Garden Gods, and so it's.
So for those of you listening, that we're not going to put the photo in the show notes, but the photo when we were in Colorado Springs together for my graduation, and Justin was holding me in Garden of the Gods, literally picked me up, holding me. So this year, Justin sends me a photo and says, You're not here.
I was holding myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I jokingly said I was just gonna go find somebody that looked like you and see if I could hold them and take a picture, but
Actually, the shirt that I'm wearing right now, I was wearing in that picture.
you were?
Yep. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Go Broncos.
Yeah, no, walked in the same spot. Almost got hit by a truck, but I did it for you.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Dedication right there.
Well, I'm glad you had a good trip, and those milestones, that progress report, those are awesome. Good job. Keep up the good work. So, Heidi, how's your last 3 days or weeks been?
Yeah, it's been good. Just trying to take your advice you give at the end of each one. Keep on keeping on, right? Am I talking too quietly?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Also, Hannah turned 18 on Friday.
Yes.
I have an 18-year-old now.
She's so old.
Yeah.
Heidi, I mean, not.
I
Hannah.
know it. No, I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
No, Friday morning he said, I know it's Hannah that's having a birthday, but it really feels like you're the one getting older. I said, yeah, that's accurate. So,
well, but then I realized, because like together we have 8 kids together. I used to say 7.5, and I was told that's rude. So my daughter-in-law, she counts as a full child too. So so out of our 8 kids, 5 of them are adults now.
yeah,
And so I guess that makes me old too.
it's true.
And then Elliot will turn 18, and we'll have 6 out of 8
That's
that are
crazy.
adults this year.
Yeah, and Cooper turns 13 next
Cooper
week.
turns 13 next week. So
Hey, did we talk? Well, and Bree had a birthday just a few weeks ago too. We talked about that before on the podcast, right?
We did. Yeah, she turned 16. And how's the driving going?
Pretty good. Becky's probably rode with her more than anybody.
Yeah. Anytime she needs money, she's like, "Mom, do you want to go get Starbucks?" Or
that sounds
I'll take you. So kind of her. But any chance I get to spend extra time with my kid, if it costs me Starbucks, so be it. So
right. Yeah,
yep.
I get that. We should go to Starbucks. We should go to the store. Oh. Okay. But you're right, it's worth it. We love it.
Yeah, I haven't rode with her too much except for her picking me up when I take the car to the shop. Actually, she made me drive home that night because she's like, I don't want to deal with traffic, 5 o'clock traffic. No, she's doing a pretty good job.
Good job, Bree.
That's awesome. That's good. Justin, how are you, man?
Doing good. Just doing the same thing. Nothing new in my life. Right, Becky? I don't have anything new. You gave the update on yourself, so that's good.
I did. You don't have to chauffeur everyone around now.
I was going to say that. I told him it was going to change his life. So
yeah, my mornings look different. Like I should probably do something with my life in the mornings because I'm still waking up at the same time. Maybe I should just go to work early and then take off work early every week and go golfing.
Or
Becky.
He's waiting for
you could do other things like
what? Hang out with you?
No, I'm sleeping.
Sick. Yeah,
no, I was thinking more along the lines of physical activity.
Thanks for calling me fat to everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, it's exactly what I said. Mm-hmm. This is how relationships work.
This is how a marriage works.
We
should do a marriage. Are we going to do a marriage episode at some point?
I don't know that we're qualified.
That was one of the things that keeps coming up. It's like, what other serious topics are we going to talk about?
I don't know about serious topics with us. This is about as serious as I think we might push it. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows with you? You're always surprising me.
Becky is?
Everybody.
All
of you.
Okay.
All of you surprised me.
Well, how have you been? You've asked everyone else.
So. Well, I'm just living the dream. Yeah.
Hey, sarcasm for anyone who couldn't see his face.
You
on the heels.
You got a new car.
We did get a new car. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Camry breathed her last.
Is it out of the driveway at least?
No, they won't come get it.
They won't?
I've tried 2 different companies that said the same day pickup, and they haven't come yet. It's been 2 weeks. It's been longer than 2 weeks. It's been.
Has it?
Yeah.
I mean, are they willing to still come get it?
Yeah, they're just taking their time. They're actually not coming to do it. So, yeah, we got a new car. So we had to get a new car. So that was fun. Took 2 of our kids to go do car shopping with. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So took him out because I needed a ride. So I had to take Elliot with me so he could drive me to Portland. So yeah, that was fun. But yeah, we got a good little car.
You survived Portland. That's good. There's a lot of weird things going on there right now.
Yeah, and for those 14 of you that are listening, if any of you are have any job leads, let me know. Be happy to talk to somebody that could get me some work. But where was I going with that?
I don't know.
Portland. Yeah, I looked up a job in Portland because President Trump has sent out the National Guard to Portland for the ICE offices, and just to bring some. I'm not going to get political here, but I looked up the ICE facilities around the country are hiring right now.
Yeah.
And they are offering a $50,000 sign-on bonus
Oh, jeez.
to go to work for ICE. I don't know. That's pretty tempting right now.
I don't know. I've been watching a lot of weird videos.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, the closest one to us that's hiring is Seattle. So
That's a little bit of a drive.
that's a little bit of a
You
drive.
might have to trade the car in for a helicopter.
Yeah.
Or
Even in my car. Yeah.
Oh, we did get to see Emma a little bit this
Yeah,
weekend.
Emma came home this weekend and
Oh, nice.
been here for a little bit, so she's back on the road to school. But yeah,
Did she come back by herself?
She did, yeah.
Okay.
So she made the drive and made it all the way back, and she's driving right now. So hopefully she gets back and is safe. So
And she's enjoying school, making the most of it.
she's doing the best she can.
Yeah. I mean, it's first year.
Yeah, growing pains for sure, and going through some stuff. But yeah, she's doing well. Proud of her. So yep, she's headed back. So that's a good sign too.
Yeah. Good deal.
Yep. Well, as we transition into what we're doing, like we said, a couple more episodes left. We're going to finish this series on church hurt with a different approach to an episode next week. We're going to talk through a sermon on disappointment with Rod Thelander, who was with us last week. He has written a sermon and delivered it a few times on dealing with disappointment. And there's 4 different points. We kind of introed it last week, but we'll say it again here next week. So tune in next week as we sit together and talk through disappointment with God, disappointment with the church, disappointment with others, and disappointment with ourselves. And I think it'll be really good. He has some great tools and some great scriptural truth nuggets that help us to deal with disappointment. So looking forward to that. And that'll be a good time for us to really wrap up this series on church hurt. But what I wanted to do is we talked about our stories. We started this series with Justin and Becky and Heidi and I talking about our experiences with church hurt. We talked to a couple other people, Michael and Deandra, about their experiences with church hurt, and just listening to their stories. So once again, I just want to reiterate, you have a story to tell. Make sure you're telling somebody. It's valid. Your stories are valid. So everybody has a story to tell. And so I want to thank those guests for joining us. Then we talked to Pastor Rod and Pastor Jeff about how church hurt affects leadership and how they deal with helping others through their church hurt. And we had some really good moments with them last week. And they are so wise and so good at just kind of bringing it down, but also talking to them a little bit behind the scenes. And they mentioned it a little bit in the podcast, but the hurt that pastors and leaders go through is immense as well. And so we didn't get into some of their church hurt, but I know Deandra alluded to some of it with her dad as well, and just some of those things that happen. In other words, none of us are exempt from experiencing church hurt. One of the things that I brought up last week was sometimes the hurt we experience is not necessarily within the church, but we bring it into the church because we expect the church to be a safe place. And so we bring our baggage and our hurt, as we talked about,
or our manure.
or our manure.
Oh, Jeff is great.
Yeah. And we bring that into the church, and then it becomes church hurt. As my dad said last week too, new people coming to the church is a great thing. Church growth is great, but with each new person brings a whole other set of problems and issues and sometimes baggage and manure with them. And that's just life. That's who we all are. But I think we would be remiss, and that's why I wanted to do this episode with all four of us again, is so we've heard our stories, we've heard how we approach it from a pastoral perspective, but now we need to come back and kind of talk about the accountability. How do we then process this ourselves? How do we deal with it? And so as I was talking to all of you tonight before the show, and then talking to Heidi a little bit about this episode, we all have a personal responsibility to how we deal with our own hurt. And so I want to talk about that a little bit tonight, but also we have a responsibility, if we're going to be in relationship with others, how we're responding to their hurt as well. So kind of twofold. We'll see how this goes tonight. I don't have any pre-written questions or anything like that, but as we talked about with the pastors last week, nothing can get resolved or forgiven without accountability. And true accountability happens within relationship. And so if we're going to enter into these places, we're going to be forced into relationship if we're going to be dealing with the hurt. So just want to throw it out there. How do we get started with this? That's a great question. I don't really know. So here we go. I'm going to start with you, Justin, because you usually have something to say.
Oh, great. Here we go.
I'm curious, when you have been hurt and you've gotten through maybe there's been a point, maybe there hasn't, where you've kind of gotten over the hurt, so to speak, or you've processed through the hurt, and now you have to respond because you're either aware of the motivation or the intentions behind it, or you've come to a reconciliation or a forgiving moment, but now you're aware of really what happened and the whole picture. How do you then go deal with some of these same people within your churches? Maybe you left the church, you talked a little bit about that, but how do you then process what you now are accountable for?
Well, for the first, I don't know. I mean, the first thing that usually happens is I'll probably joke about it, not joke about it, but like just poke fun at it for a while and just kind of let it build from there. And to me, it just becomes a joke to me over time. And then there'll be, but over time though, there are situations, I mean, disappointment in the church or in our current situation is just, at some point, you just kind of if this is the way they're going to be about it, I mean, that's kind of I kind of take the mentality of it's on them now. I can take it for a little while and it can fester up and build for me, but after a while, I just kind of move on and say, hey, like, we're just going to push it off and just not so much allow it to happen anymore if it was truly a bigger issue, but just kind of just move on from it. I set it and forget it to be kind of our situation. But that's kind of the mentality that I've taken with how we handled the hurt that we had with Becky's cancer journey and some of the stuff that we dealt with. It's just, we don't got time for those little things to build up. But I know we still talk about them. We always bring them back up. So then it seems like it's always bothering us. But
yeah, no, I hear you. Becky, I want to get your take on that in just a second, but that's one of I'm going to say this kind of tongue in cheek, kind of joke about it, but I mean, Justin, you probably need to go to counseling. If it's all just a joke in that.
Oh, I know it. Yeah.
But we talk about this. We've talked about this with our kids too, when they go through hurtful things with their friends and at school and different places like that, where we talk about the difference between guys and girls males and females in handling emotional hurt like this or relational hurt. And it is different. We all handle it differently. I mean, there were times when Justin and I were in high school together, and there were times we talked about this where it was like we would just get tired of each other. And it's like, hey, I need 3 days. I'm annoyed with you. Just leave me alone for 3 days. And that's part of the podcast background as well. And we would go our separate ways, and then we'd come back together like nothing ever happened and move on from it or whatever. And usually it was just because I was being emotional and needed a break. But guys handle things differently than girls do. Becky, how do you respond to the way Justin talked about that as far as it applies to you and your marriage and your relationship and that shared hurt that you guys have had? How do you respond once you're aware of the full picture?
For me, kind of just depending on like the level of hurt and how deeply it's affected me. There are times where I can deal with it like Justin kind of does and just sort of look at it like, is this really worth all of this effort that in the end it's really only hurting me? Or is it something deeper that, maybe involves more than just me or more than just my family? For me, I definitely am much more emotional and react emotionally than Justin does. He is very black and white, and for me, there's no such thing as black and white. It's all just shades of gray, is how I always joke with him about it. And so for me, a lot of times, how I typically in the past have dealt with it is, honestly, I usually have to start just with myself, looking inside of me and evaluating, how I'm affected by it, how I think I'm affected by it. Am I really that affected by it, or am I looking too much into it? Am I making it much more of an issue than it really is? And if it is really an issue, I honestly tend to just turn it to God and take it to Him in prayer. This is not something that by any means happened overnight and easily. Definitely my experience with cancer made it much easier to do that. Because in the end, and in the grand scheme of all things, is this hurt that I'm experiencing, is it really that bad? If it's something that I've done to someone else, by all means, I'll do whatever I can to rectify it. But if it's mostly just within myself, or even if it was something between me and someone else, whether it's between me and Justin or me and whoever, if they've gotten over it, then why should I keep lugging that baggage and hurt around? And so, it gets more to the point of, kind of like Justin said, just sort of let it be. It was this painful experience, but I'm not, especially if you're not currently still in that same situation, that same hurtful moment, but to really just let go of it. And at the end of the day, everything is ultimately within God's control, and nothing that I can do I can't make choices for people. I can't always affect change in them, even if I wish that I could. And the best that I can do sometimes is just to pray for that person, that situation, and do my very best to deal with my portion of it, and just sort of let go and let God, as they say.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. Some of those things we've talked about, and you've shared some. I know you've got some thoughts on that, and I want to come to that really quickly here. One of the things that Deandra brought up when we talked about that and kind of letting go and letting God have it, that is an element of it. There's no doubt about that for sure. And then there's the accountability part that we do need to do better at. And I hear you both saying that in those places of relationship and whether it's reconcile or rectifying a wrong that maybe we've committed. I love hearing you say that because we do have responsibility in that. Heidi, what is you kind of share some of those same insights of so many, not a 70 times 7 attempt kind of thing, but making attempts for reconciliation. But if there's no progress in relationship or accountability, then what do we do with that hurt going forward? What are your viewpoints on that a little bit and how you handle the hurt there?
Well, I think as I'm sitting here thinking, listening and thinking through, I would say that, and I think I've mentioned this before, I would not have considered, like, forgiveness felt really easy before this last season. It wasn't, when things would happen, I think I was able to compartmentalize it a little bit more and be less emotional about it. And then just understand that this is where someone's at. This is what's gone on. This is what's occurred, it's just where they're at in life or they're an unhealthy individual. But I think when you experience it on a really deep personal level, it's been, just to be honest, it's been harder to wrestle through some of that. And I think, like Jeff was saying last week, that forgiveness is not something that you can just, that you should do in an instant, that it's a process. I think we'll both Jeff and your dad had a little bit of a different view on what that would take. But just as far as the reconciling, there are instances and circumstances where it isn't good. It's not healthy to reconcile with somebody. And so there needs to be grace and forgiveness applied, yes, but also an understanding that to reconcile is going to look different than having a restored relationship with somebody. And that a restored relationship isn't always possible, one, and two, wise. And God charges us all throughout the Bible to keep our eyes fixed on him, but also to stay away from the things that are toxic, that pull us in and that have the ability to affect us negatively. And that doesn't mean that we don't sit with people in those. And I think that's where we kind of get, like, the church gets a little confused, like, well, we're supposed to stay away from, and that's different than sitting with somebody who's in the midst of hurt, rather than somebody who's committed to being destructive and evil and manipulative. That's different. And I think from my own personal, it's been very hard. I know I've said too, I have always struggled because my heart is for peace and for understanding. And so what is difficult has been coming to the realization that there are just people who are committed to misunderstanding you or a situation and that don't care enough to understand, or are not, I don't even know if care is the word. I think there is that for some people, but just maybe don't have the margin to sit and understand, or, we all have things going on in our lives as well. And so sometimes for some people, it's just a matter of margin, I guess. But
I think some of that too is, like, especially when it comes to an individual that you've had a long relationship with, is the acceptance that relationship is going to be over. Like, and I think that's the hardest piece, is just, that's the piece I think you hang on to for a while, depending on what the hurt is, obviously. But you hang on to that for a while just to say, oh, we can get it back to the way it was. But it's never going to be.
Yeah.
And then that's the piece that you have to sit down for yourself and with God and say, hey, I mean, obviously this person should have been here for you, should have done this, and they weren't. This is not healthy for you. Like, you're just going to have to move on.
The reality is, the reconciliation, it shouldn't be the same one way or the other. Like you were just saying, if there was something that caused a hurt, then there's going to have to be, it's not just a repairing, there needs to be a health that is restored to that relationship. And if that's not possible, then it's not wise to continue that.
Yeah. And the thing, again, when we talk about this from a church perspective, and I go back to what Deandra was saying of it, we have to hold each other accountable. We have to hold people in the church accountable too, because as Christ followers, we are held to a different standard, and we should be, if we're trying to allow God through the Holy Spirit to transform us into Christ likeness. We should be held to a different standard. So there should be some accountability that causes growth. Mm-hmm. But Scripture also tells us, and I'm no theologian, but I've studied this enough to know that Jesus sent his disciples out, and he sent them out, and he said to them, if you go to a place and they are not willing to receive your blessing, shake the dust off your feet and move on. We've taken that in the church to mean literally, if you go to a place, shake the dust off of that place and go somewhere else. But if you study that deeper, what he's really talking about there too is relationships. And when you're in a relationship where there's not a mutual respect or a healthy reverence for accountability, for friendship, for growth, for restoration, for all of those things, then it's okay for us to shake the dust off and say, you know what, it's not healthy for me to continue to engage here. I need to take my blessing somewhere else. And we need to learn that that's okay. And there can be health in that. Whereas, like Jeff and Dad were saying last week, as well as what we've heard in our church over the last few weeks on prayer, is you have to lay it at Jesus's feet, like Becky was saying, but you have to still use our brain and our resources that God gives us to say, you know what, if this is not drawing us closer into deeper relationship and it's hurting us, then we need to be willing to cut that off as well and move on. And I think that's where we get a little sideways, because we don't understand it completely. We don't know what it's going to do. It may cause more hurt, but in the end, it may be healthier when we shake the dust off and we move forward a little bit. I think those are huge things. We got sideways last week a little bit on the terminology, the definition of the terms, and forgiveness and reconciliation. But in our church, when we were going through this series and this podcast, but we were also going through a series on prayer, and our pastors were preaching through the Lord's Prayer. And Jesus teaches his disciples to pray. And I told Heidi once, I knew it was coming, and we were going through this podcast on Church Hurt. And when you pray the Lord's Prayer, there's a very specific line in the Lord's Prayer that says, and forgive us our sins as we forgive those that sinned against us. And so what does that mean when it comes to church hurt? If we don't forgive, the Bible's very clear that we won't be forgiven. And so forgiveness, reconciliation, I remember, I'll just make it personal here for a minute. I got a phone call from a person that was in a different church that I had pastored when they found out that I was getting divorced. And I kid you not, I timed it. It was a 27-second phone call, and it was directed specifically at me with very pointed questions because of what they had heard from the other side of the camp, to see how I would answer these questions. And the questions were this: is there space for reconciliation, and is there space for restoration? And I said to this person, I said, because I believe that forgiveness and reconciliation can happen, but restoration, as Heidi just mentioned, cannot happen sometimes. And I cannot be restored with my ex-wife because of the hurt and the causes that went into that. Now, can I forgive? Yes. There will not be restoration of that relationship. There won't be. And one of the things our pastor said as he was preaching on that part of the Lord's Prayer was, here's something forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not always reconciliation, is how he phrased it. And that's kind of what Jeff and my dad were talking about last week, is the process for which that total healing takes place. If there's not a mutual effort in that by both parties, it's not going to happen. And we have to be careful. That's why I wanted to come at this conversation more about what is our role. And I loved how you guys talked about that. we have a part to try to make an effort. And when we've made an effort and it's not received, then we have to take care of ourselves and protect ourselves in that as well.
Exactly. And I've heard it said somewhere along the way that just like you guys are talking about, forgiveness is necessary. Like you said, the Bible is very clear about that. Forgiveness is required in order for us to receive forgiveness. However, forgiveness is not a free pass for someone to walk all over you and do whatever they please just because, oh, you're a Christian, you have to forgive me. That's not what forgiveness is, and that's not how it should be used ever. And that's just not. I do believe that is how some people view that, especially in when people are a little bit uncertain about how exactly forgiveness is meant to be viewed and used in the church.
I think that's where some people get hung up is, I know I've been stuck here, so I'm just going to speak from personal experience in the past. Like forgiveness has felt like you just step right back into the same place and allow the same access. And that's not what forgiveness means. Forgiveness absolutely can mean putting up boundaries and moving forward. And that is loving and that is kind. It's self-respect. It's respect for the other person. It's not okay to enable people to continue mistreating or continue doing the same things. I know too, like in the conversation of forgiveness, I think people get stuck, and I'm also speaking from experience. And I know this, like logically, intellectually, I know that forgiveness does not mean this, or yes, that forgiveness does not mean this. But sometimes it feels like forgiving someone takes away the accountability. There's that fear that if I let this go, then who's holding this person accountable? And I think there's a quote that says something like, not forgiving someone is like drinking the poison and hoping that it affects the other person, and it actually just slowly kills you. And that's true. Holding on to that does more damage to us than it does to the other person. They don't care. If there's already not a self-awareness and an accountability in someone over what has been done, and you're not able to reconcile and have that restored relationship as before, then you holding on to it isn't going to do anything for them. They don't care.
Yeah.
They didn't care to begin with. Yeah,
exactly. And that's hard. That's difficult for me to understand because I want to assume the best in people, and I want to do, like Becky was saying, I want to do my part in making sure that that I don't hurt people, and that I am making amends where I can, and doing my best in that. And sometimes, I think that's where I've struggled is and I think we all get caught in different areas of the church in this, like, what's the formula for making this happen? And so, like, what's the formula for forgiveness? And I don't, like, God doesn't give us a formula for a reason.
Jesus did. It's 70 times 7, so it's 490.
But once that 491st time,
right.
Just kidding.
No, and I'm sorry to make light. You're absolutely right. I agree with you. And that's the thing with relationships. They're so fluid. They're living, as Jeff said last week too. The church should be an organism. It's a living organism. And when we treat it as an organization, or relationships as organizations or transactional, we talk about that a lot. If a relationship is purely transactional, there's going to be no accountability. It's not a matter of both parties win. It's a matter of who can get the best and who can win, and the other person loses. That's not relationship. That's not forgiveness. That's not health. That's transaction. And that's not what God intended this relationship within the church to be, in my opinion.
Well, and what you were saying about, sorry, Justin.
You go ahead.
About shaking the dust off of your feet. I wanted to just go back and touch on that, where I agree with you in that. I think that in that, whatever that means, whether it means away from the relationship or away from the church and into a new one, what we have to guard against is being bitter and holding contempt. And that's where that's our personal responsibility in that then is to do the work between us and God of healing and making sure that there isn't anything that's standing in between us and someone else, that we are free and clear. We can still understand and acknowledge the truth of the facts that happened, that, yeah, this was horrible. This was crappy. This wasn't okay. This is whatever. That's the truth. But we don't have to hold on to the emotions and the feelings of those things. And so we have to do the work of healing ourselves with Christ first, so that we're not walking into another place or another relationship or another friendship damaged, or even worse, with, baggage. That it's okay to walk into something with baggage, but not in a way that's going to affect someone
We're not
just as you were just affected.
right. Yeah.
And so the ripple effect is not a positive one, it's a negative one. And so then our personal responsibility is to clear our hearts and minds of any bitterness and in that unforgiveness. And my dad said this to me early on, and this was before things really got bad. He said, Heidi, you are going to have to steel yourself against feeling contempt. And at the time I was like, well, I'm really angry, I don't feel contempt. But just a few short weeks later, I was like, here we are. I'm at contempt. I feel it. I understand the depth of that word, and it just kept getting worse. And it's difficult. It is difficult when you feel like there has not been accountability, especially in a place like a church where you kind of expect it to be obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's not, and you see people celebrating it almost, or completely unaware, and you have to get rid of the bitterness and any destruction or revenge mindset in your own heart, that would affect that going forward.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. That's so true. And that's what you said in that first episode as we talked about this, is that we don't want to tell our stories and come from a place of a bitter heart, and a place where we are so angry and bitter that this is just going to be what we hold on to. Something we're learning recently personally is that, the Bible talks about, the truth, and the truth setting us free. But those true things will set us free, but they don't set us free just by knowing it. We have to hold on to the truth. But so many times we don't hold on to the truth. We hold on to the lies, and we hold on to the hurts, and we hold on to the places that won't give us freedom, that won't give us reconciliation and forgiveness. We hold on to the lies and the bitterness and the anger and the rage, when God's trying to say to us, hold on to my truth, that you are loved, that you are chosen, that you can get through this, that you can be in a healthy relationship. You can have places of forgiveness and reconciliation. And those are the places that we are challenged to hold on to, because it's very easy as humans, as we have seen, and we see this every day. There's so much selfishness. Let me get mine, even within the church, that we lose sight of the fact that there's so many people that are around us that are either going through similar things or even worse things than we are. And our lack of awareness, self-awareness, can bring on unwarranted hurt if we're not careful. And we got to be careful to guard against that as well.
And I think it would be a huge disservice to go through these things that all of us have gone through, and very different from different aspects. Like, you guys have walked through all of this stuff in this last season with us, but you've also had your own personal hurts with, things in the church, as you spoke about. But it would be a huge disservice to do those things and then to carry on bitterness, but also just to go with blinders and keep our heads down, when the prayer should be then, God, give me eyes to see the people who are hurting, and help me to respond with what they need, with what you use me for what they need, the grace, and it's like a gentle, audacious grace that meets people. We've had people who have sat with us and handed that to us. You guys have been that for us. And it makes a huge difference in you receiving and acknowledging the truth that you were just talking about. When you are inundated with people who have their thoughts and feelings and assumptions and perceptions, and it's all rooted in lies or misconceptions, it's really hard to rise above that. It feels like you're barely treading water some days. And then when you sit in front of people, or you sit with people who say, listen, it doesn't matter. we see your heart, we see, and this is what God is offering. This is the truth of the matter. And that makes a huge difference. And I want to be that for people going forward. I don't want to miss the people. I've prayed this in this season that God, I pray that I've never made anyone feel like they couldn't return to a church, like pushed out of a church because of anything that I've done or haven't sat with them in, and we can't be that to everyone. But I think, was it Becky that was saying, for the people who've been put in our sphere of influence, they're there for a reason.
Yeah, even when it comes to not so much church, I mean, just my recent change in jobs and the reason I had to leave, people are still presenting themselves to me to fix their problems. When I was hurt by how some of those, not the people that hurt, selfishly thought it was best for them to attack me in a small way. There are people still dealing with that and still presenting themselves to me that they want me to fix it. And I just want to kind of move on, but I don't. But I also, like you said, use our experiences to help those where we can, which is anything that we do, especially like you said, you can move on, but still be aware that you can still be a light and help out those others that you come along in your path to help out later on. So
do you guys have an example, maybe in your church growing up, Becky, or even in the places that you've been recently? Do either one of you have a place where the relationship was not going to be restored, but there wasn't a separation either? Meaning, nobody left the church. You still had to go see each other every week. You probably crossed paths in different ways. Do you have a scenario like that? And if so, how did you continue to live your life in such a way as to not bring up the same hurt or to cause more hurt?
I can't. I don't know, Becky.
I guess in a small way, this is an example way back from when I was in high school still. But at the time I had been essentially filling in as the worship director, leader, whatever. And then they brought in a part-time paid person to do that. They just didn't acknowledge all the time and effort and energy that I had put into making what the best of the situation that I could for what I had to offer. And it really hurt me at the time. And really what ended up having to happen was that I had to get out of my own way, essentially, and I tend to be not quite as direct as some other people in this scenario, but more so than others. I tend to be a little bit more direct. I simply just went to the person and I just explained my heart. Like, I have a heart for this, and I'm doing it not because I'm fantastic and I think I'm the best. I'm doing it because there was need and I filled it, and now you're filling that need. And all I really want is for you to acknowledge what I have set up for you so that you could then go on and use your knowledge and your skills that you're being paid for now to lead the church into, lead them into worship, essentially. And in the end, it was simply a matter of that person just had no idea. No one had forewarned them or let them know, like, hey, just so you know, the reason that you have these things all set up for you and this scenario set up for you and these, whatever little pieces of information. Like, here's this that you might want to know. You don't have to start all over. It was just a matter of having that conversation with that person. But I had to make the first step. They weren't going to do that for me because they didn't know that the hurt had happened. So in that situation, it's a little bit different than some more.
That was a situational hurt rather than a personal hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
It just so happened to be that it was in the church.
Right. Exactly.
Because
when does that happen?
Oh,
or
all
there's
the
a
time.
miscommunication, or there isn't communication, and there's
Ding, ding, ding. Communication.
right.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. In that we're hurt, and we want. This goes back to what we've said. We want people to pursue us and ask the questions. And the truth is, sometimes people don't know because people are clueless, or sometimes, I mean, until you articulate it and say, and that's hard because we want to be pursued. We want people to ask. We want to assume that people are going to notice that, hey, we've been missing from church, or hey, this, this really ugly thing went down, and we kind of want to make sure that we got both sides of this. And so that's where a lot of that stems from.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and you did the right thing, I think, Becky, of you were aware and you knew that they weren't aware. And so you went to them just to tell them. And sometimes, like I said a few weeks ago, I mean, when you've been hurt, sometimes the least thing you want to do is tell somebody about it.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's what we have to do, is go and talk to somebody about it so that somebody is aware, because there are so many things going on. And you mentioned communication, Justin, and that's, I mean, being on the other side of a similar situation like to that, Becky, I mean, there's a point. I was going to ask this question, but I already know the answer, I think. And you said it was while you were in high school, but we went through a youth pastor search. All the volunteers were doing such a great job, but we were hiring somebody for that job. One of the things I did as staff was I went and interviewed those volunteers to see if they were even interested first, and to just give that respect. Now, when we hired somebody, some of the first complaints I got were, well, why didn't they just keep doing it? They were doing a great job. And that they didn't know all the behind the scenes stuff that went on. And they don't need to know all the communication. But if you ask the question, then you can at least have the conversation and hopefully get to the bottom before hurt continues to build and bleed over too.
No, it's just easier to jump to conclusions.
It is.
Like in the movie The Office Space, where you get to jump to conclusions, Matt.
Yes.
And to make assumptions. Assumptions are always the best.
Yes, especially in the church, because we can't
definitely
say that 3-letter word. Yeah.
Oh, we can.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. Very true. Now, I want to say this, as we're coming up on an hour already, and I wondered as we got started if we'd even get through an hour tonight. But we also want to be very clear as we tend to wrap this up, is that we are not in any way trying to say that what we're saying will solve any problems. And I know within an hour episode or plus that we can't sit here and fix all the places where we can have hurt. I think those good things of being reminded of, to not hang on to bitterness, to communicate, to reach out, to make ourselves vulnerable within relationship where it's safe and healthy, can be a great starting point. But that's just it. We're only scratching the surface on this topic, on this issue. As Justin and I were talking about the podcast going forward, we've been trying to effort a guest, and when we told them what we were doing right now, it's like, oh, I'll come and talk about that instead. I mean, everybody's got a story on this if you've been in the church longer than a year. But there's so much that could be touched on that we're not going to get to, and we're not going to solve all the problems. But in sharing our experiences, hopefully it opens up the door for people to think through, be aware, to communicate better and more clearly, so that we can continue to be part of the church as people in the church that are preparing the church for Christ's return. And as we continue to trust him with our lives and our hurts, all we're doing is helping to make the church a better place as we attempt to heal and be better in those places as well. So I don't want to keep preaching.
Well said, BJ. It's like you've done this before.
No, I never have. This is my first podcast. So
Well, you've been live streamed before, so you've been good.
that is true. Man, yeah, that's crazy. Well, so as we wrap this up, what can we take with us as we go forward now? Becky, what is something that you can take from this and move forward with for yourself?
I guess for me, just really trying to absorb and absorb all of the different information in different ways that people do communicate. There's so much more to communication than just having a conversation. It involves all sorts of things, and we won't even begin to get into all of that. But just acknowledging the fact that communication is incredibly important, and just to be more self-aware, just like Heidi was talking about, now that we are aware of so many more things based on conversations and situations that we've encountered personally and through speaking with other people, just being more aware so that we are open and available for whenever God is laying a calling on us to say, this is a great way for you to be able to help this person. This is helping us be more self-aware of, this is a toxic situation. I need to steer clear of this. I guess those are like kind of the two biggest things that I'm taking away from this.
I was going to say awareness and accountability. And then all of that is factored around communication. Like I say, Becky hates it when I say we need to communicate, or I don't communicate, or I don't make myself, I'm not more clear or whatever. But I also take away that there are people, everybody, like we said, has a story. And being available to potentially be available to hopefully take on trying to assist them through the process. However that looks. Doesn't mean that you have to fix it, even though Becky would say, I try to fix a lot of things. But being available to try to lead them down the right path, or a resource, or just something to help them out, versus just being like, yeah, that sounds too messy. I don't want to be in that dirt. I don't want that dirt to turn into mud and then get it slinged around a little bit. But also you have to it's your awareness too about what your stuff that you've gone through, to not put yourself in a situation that could lead into bringing up past stuff that really puts you in a really bad spot really fast. So yeah, that's the thing that I have taken away. And I take it away too, is like, I know that when you guys are going through your situation, it's like, man, how do I even help with this situation? And I know you always said, hey, just be available. Just be available. Talk.
Your way of fixing a problem in this world, you just talked about getting dirty. Justin will either try to dry up the mud, or he'll try to throw more water on it.
Yeah,
he'll do whatever he can to try to fix it, but sometimes
Or
it's
both.
just never going to happen.
Or both.
Or both. That's right.
At least we're using a fire with gasoline analogy.
That's at work, not at church.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. No, but that was really one thing that's, when you guys going through and stuff back, it was hard because it wasn't something I've ever have gone through, which it wasn't something you've gone through either, but I wasn't, or we weren't available, but we were. And I know that's important. And I think sometimes that can be hard, especially for me, to be like, well, they can manage, but hey, my phone's available. Call, text, do whatever you need to do. Let's talk about something else besides the situation. Let's find another topic. Which is why we started a podcast, right? So we can talk about other things. And then we got to season 3, and now we're here. But anyways.
So Heidi, what are you taking away from this?
I mean, I like what Becky said, along with all that we've said here, but just in these situations, also asking for wisdom and discernment in each of these, like as you sit with people or as you walk through hurt with others, sometimes that's needed. Just praying for wisdom and discernment, and also understanding that in sitting with other people, you alone are not going to be the one to fix the problem, or sometimes there's going to be others that need to be brought in, or other resources to as far as helping other people. I think, I think for me, what I needed to hear the most is just working out the healing of some of these places so that you are not bringing into someone else's hurt, your bitterness, your contempt, your anger, because that can be very detrimental in sitting with somebody in their story. And I don't want to be that. I mean, I know personally I've experienced, people sitting with me and bringing things in and their own bitterness. And sometimes that's hard because then it feels like it takes away from your own story a little bit. But then also it's like, now we're in this swirl of, we're just mad. And that's not helping anyone. But I think, I really love what Deandra said a couple of weeks ago about our personal responsibility. And I think God has equipped all of us differently. Some of us are encouragers. Some of us are really fierce and able to enact change in really like tangible physical ways. I think, working together in those places with others, we can come together, if that's possible. That's not always possible. I mean, I think about our situation. We sure aren't going to be doing that. We have shaken the dust off of our feet. But, there's different things that we can do. There's different ways that God has equipped all of us to handle and respond hurtful situations, places that are that carry hurt and that are raw like this. And I think I like what you said, just it is vulnerable to sit with others in this and also to sit and tell your story. And just, we have to be so careful that our story, it remains true, and we are able to tell it in a way that doesn't take away from, the main thing should be, what is God doing in this? What has he done? And I'll be real honest with you, some days that's very hard. It's very hard to ask those questions and answer them in a way that doesn't feel bitter or cynical. I have struggled with that in this season, and that's not something I have ever struggled with to this degree. And it's just a continual bringing it back to him and asking him to help soften my heart, to keep it soft, and so that I am not a stumbling block to somebody else down the road in their own hurt and their own story.
That's good. That's good. Thank you.
How about you?
How about me?
How about you? What have you taken away from all of this?
I've taken away that I got it figured out, and
wow. Good job.
Everyone should just go to BJ.
Go to BJ. He's got it figured out.
Yep, that's the new podcast. Just Ask BJ.
Just as BJ.
That'll be not 14 listeners. That will be 0 listeners. Yeah, no, I think it's very, for me, what it comes back to consistently, and even when I was in ministry full time, is trying to just be aware of others around me. When I had those people come into my office and bring their manure in, or when it didn't happen behind the office doors, it happened right in the foyer in front of everybody and caused me hurt in that process. Those places of just being aware that everybody is carrying something with them, and what can I do to either help or maybe lighten the potential hurt that's there. I think everything that's been said from you all, Justin and Becky, from Heidi, from Michael and Deandra, to Jeff and Rod, it's been really helpful to just kind of process this out. I know, Justin, you've been very encouraging for us to tell our story. And I feel like that's kind of where we started with this idea, but we still just barely touched the surface of some of those things. And that's okay, because that's not the point. The point is to try to help us realize that there needs to be accountability. There needs to be relationship, which includes vulnerability, which includes communication, and all of those places. So I think what it really comes down to is that it's a work in progress. And if we are all continuing to attempt that work, then we're going to be in a better place than if we just are closed-minded to it and not open to it. So I want to share a couple different scriptures as we kind of end this tonight, if that's okay. That kind of have stuck out to, I'm going to just speak for her as well, stuck out to both Heidi and I. Justin says I can't share them, but I'm going to share them.
You can hear my rocks rattle. I shake my head through the microphone.
But one of the things that Heidi has said in the couple of episodes she's been on for this, and continues to say in our own personal time, Paul writes these words in Ephesians 4. He says, "Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior." And that's just so good. That's such a good reminder that if we really want restoration, reconciliation, to really process through forgiveness, we've got to get rid of those things and turn them over at the feet of the cross. And then the writer of the Hebrews says this in Hebrews chapter 12. It says, "Look after each other so that none of you fails to receive the grace of God. Watch out that no poisonous root of bitterness grows up to trouble you, corrupting many." And I think those are good reminders for us to just be reminded that when those things do creep up, the anger, the frustration, the hurts, that we don't hold on to those things, but rather we surrender those things and we lay those down. So, again, I just really appreciate you guys coming on and for spending the time with us in this season. Again, after talking to Justin a little bit a couple weeks ago about this part of the podcast, I think personally I'm ready to wrap this up and move on. But it's been really good. And so I'm thankful for all of our guests, and I'm really excited for next week as well to kind of give some more tools, some more wisdom for somebody who's gone through this in a lot of different ways, and God's revealed some truth to him as well. So,
and you probably won't hear very much from me. BJ's kicked me off the podcast for a week.
Well, it's like Becky just said. It's like, just go to BJ. He got the answer. So
BJ needs his 3 days with his dad, and not just.
No. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Heidi, for coming on again and for surmising this with us. Really appreciate it. Justin, thanks again for your nuggets of wisdom and truth in your own way. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, no problem. I do what I can.
Love you guys.
Yeah. Love you guys. Thankful for you. And those of you listening, thanks for joining us. And tune in next week as well as we wrap up this series on church hurt. We're looking forward to it. But in the meantime, keep looking up, keep trusting in him. He's the author and finisher of our faith. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.
See ya.